The absolute worst time to change something is, well, after the fact. For example, if you're planning on retiring next year and your 401k is at an all-time high right now, and you just sit there and do nothing, and then, well, over the next 6 weeks, it drops 20%. Now you're forced to work several more years. It happens. So before you get comfortable this weekend, find out what you need to be doing right now. If you have a 401k and you're going to retire anytime soon, good morning. Welcome to Protect Your Assets. You hear the jingle. People around here, they call me the Sandman, and that's because I help you protect your hard-earned money from times like this when things can happen. And that's because I've been running a tax, legal, and financial services firm. Please send me your questions. I love those. Those are great. I got a few this week, and they were wonderful. You can email me questions@pyaradio.com, questions@pyaradio.com, because we protect your assets. So when's the best time to make a change? Well, I'll tell you, the absolute worst time to change something is after it happened. For example, when's the best time to reposition your portfolio to generate income that you're going to need during retirement? Most people that I meet with, well, they retire. And then after they retire, they hear us or find out about us, call us, and show up. And then I say, well, it's not a bad idea, but it would have been nice had you called us before so we could set things up for you. And right now is the time, because markets right now are at all-time highs right now. We've got an election just around the corner. And if you go back and look at history, which, I love to do, and we're going to do that today, a lot can happen in the next 6 weeks. And so today is your wake-up call. If you're thinking of retiring anytime soon, I encourage you, I implore you, please take a look at your portfolio and think about, where are you going to generate income over the next 5 years? So today I put together my market checklist for you, and we're going to go through that so you don't miss anything. Now, let's get started. Yep, good week again. The Dow was up 0.6%. Year to date, we're sitting at 12.3% up. S&P 500 up another 0.6%, up over 20% year to date. NASDAQ up 1%, again up over 20% year to date. The international index having a decent run this week. The leader up 2.5% year to date, just about 11% up. Not bad. That's why you want to be diversified. 10-year Treasury sitting at 3.76%. And oil, another tough week for oil, down 3.5%, closing at $68.54 a barrel. So like I was just saying a minute ago, I doubt that we're going to avoid some volatility between now and the election. This past week on Tuesday, we saw the consumer confidence number come in, and yep, the market didn't like it. Got a little squirrely, finished the week positive, which is good. But next week, we're going to get the September jobs report. That'll come out Friday. And remember, historically, as we talk about history, market volatility rises as you lead up to the election, and then after starts to subside. Well, like how? Well, let's go back and look at presidential elections since World War II, shall we? 1 week after the election, the market dropped an average of negative 1% in the week following the election. The worst 1 week performance followed. You guessed it, 1948 was down 6%. And then of course, the time I remember, 2008, down 15%. The best, 2020, up 5%, 2004 up 3%, and 1996 up 2%. More than 60% of the time, the stock market was down the week following the election. How about a month after the election? Well, the stock market increased by an average of less than 1% in the month following the election. The worst 1 month performance followed 1984, down 4%, and of course 2008 down 16%. The best, 2020 up 9%, 2004 up 6, 2016 up 5. But here, the tables are flipped versus the 1 week figure, with the market positive more than 60% of the time 1 month following the election. And last, how about 1 year after the election? The stock market rose an average of more than 10% from the election. Worst 1 year, 2000. Remember that. Down 21%. 1956. I wasn't around then, but down 10%. And the best was 2020, once again, up 40%. I surely remember 1996, up 35%. 1960, up 32%. But get this, stocks were positive 70% of the time 1 year following an election. So the point today is that volatility is on the horizon. I think it's coming. And so you better get prepared. That's the word today. Today, we're going to be talking about how you can get prepared. What are some things you can be doing to protect yourself? And so one of the things I'd like you to do right now is, if you are at or near retirement, or you do your own health care, one way you can start to save more money tax-free for retirement is something called an HSA. And in about 6 weeks, the window is going to open up where you can start to look at your healthcare plans. And I want every one of you out there who has this to start looking at your plan or finding out what an HSA is and get ready to contribute to that, because you can stick away quite a bit of cash into that. It can be tax-free, it can be deductible, all sorts of great things. And then it grows tax-free. You can put it in a index fund and let it grow 10, 15 years, 20 years tax-free, and then you can use it for something later. So those are the kind of things that we're going to talk about this morning, but particularly your portfolio. We'll be right back. Welcome back. I am David Hollander, also known around here as the Sandman, and you are listening to Protect Your Assets this morning. And for those of you wondering why they call me the Sandman, well, it's my job to protect you from making bad mistakes with your money, your taxes, your real estate. That's why they call me the Sandman. I help you sleep well at night. Anyways, listen, for those of you just joining us, you are probably seeing how high your 401k or your stock accounts are right now. You're wondering, what should I be doing about that? Well, the worst time to figure it out is after it's dropped 20% and you're planning on retiring in a couple months. So if that's you, you're planning on retiring anytime soon, well, this is the best time for you to consider protecting your money and your retirement. So when you retire, you have the income that you want and you need to pay your bills so you can do the things you always wanted to do. So that's why today we're going through a checklist. You don't want to miss any of this. So tune in for the entire show as we share the top of the market checklist. So let's talk about the podcast. If you missed any of this show, you missed the market segment at the top where I gave you some history lesson about elections and what you need to know 1 week, 1 month, 1 year after the election. Well, go check out our podcast. And you can find that wherever you get your podcast by typing in Protect Your Assets. And then, type in podcast. Sorry, not that. Probably market segment. Will that do it, Kev? Market segment. All right, do that and you'll find it. Now we have caller. Name? Lexi.
Yes, Lexi Davis.
Lexi. Good morning, Lexi. How are you?
Great.
Where are you calling from?
Carmel.
Carmel. I love Carmel. You know, I went to Stevenson there in Pebble Beach. Swam there and everything. It's cold in the morning, though. How are you doing?
Good.
All right. What's your question, Lexi?
And few concerns. Most of all the real estate that I own is in California. And I'm trying to look if that's hurting me or if it's going to hurt me in the future.
All right. And do you rely on that income to maintain your lifestyle in retirement?
50% of it, yes.
All right. So here's the deal with California real estate, and here's the unknown. Certainly, it's great to live here in the fact that we've had some really nice appreciation over the last 20, 25 years. And that's great in terms of a value. But when you look at the return on that investment, I call that the ROI, it's typically not very good. It's typically around 1 to 2 to 3%. And the way I do that is I take the value of the property, I divide into that how much income you're getting on an annualized basis, and then take a look at the return. Now, of course, you may have depreciation, but you may be at the end of that schedule now, so you don't get that deduction anymore. So you got to look at all that. But at the end of the day, the return is typically not that great. So as a real estate owner, I assume you probably have a big capital gain in that property or properties.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I've been 1031ing one of them. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm glad you know about 1031, because one of the strategies you can do is you could 1031 exchange out of California into another state or states. You could take, say, that one house that might be worth $2 million, and you could parlay that into 3 different properties across the country in different asset classes. A lot of people don't know that. You could buy commercial, you could buy residential, you could buy storage, you could buy multifamily, you could buy student housing. There's all sorts of things you could do to diversify that risk, not only from an income standpoint, but from a location standpoint and legislative standpoint. And so I would take a look at that. Second is I would look at the laws of the state, because one thing that real estate owners, as you probably know, in California, we don't have a lot of rights. And so it gets really tough to maintain that standard of living, I'll call it, for the property for you as an owner when they continue to legislate ways to take that money away from you. So overall, if I were you and you're going to continue to own real estate, I would say great, but I would sit down with one of our advisors and find out what you could do to increase that rate of return potentially and lower your overall risk in terms of attorneys coming at you. All right, Lexi?
Well, that makes sense. Is there certain states that you would suggest or areas that you would suggest?
Absolutely. We don't have time for it right now, so I'd like to talk to you. Give us a call, 808-5627. We'll be more than happy to help you, and then we'll take it from there. But yes, the answer is yes. Okay. Thank you, Lexi.
Great.
Have a great day.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You too.
All right. So this past week, I was sitting down with Matt. Matt works for a large tech company here in Silicon Valley, and Matt had a bunch of stock in his company. In fact, he had about 90% of his net worth tied up in his company's stock. And we all know tech's done pretty well this year. If you look at any tech position, particularly some of the larger ones, they're up pretty nicely. And so he's sitting on a very large long-term capital gain right now with most of his portfolio. Of course, he gets grants and options each year, and part of that's short-term, but a big part of it is long-term capital gain. And Matt right now is thinking about retiring next year in 2025. So Matt asked me, how can I start to get out of my concentrated stock position right now? Great question, Matt. It was very similar to Lexi's question, who had a bunch of money probably tied up in real estate, a bunch of her net worth. She said about 50%. Again, probably a nice big appreciation. So the first thing that's easy that I encourage everyone to do is to look at your tax bracket. Don't ignore that. Look at your federal tax bracket right now. See how much income you have coming into it. And let's say you're sitting at $250,000 of income right now, and you've got, say, another $140,000 or so that you could realize in income and still be in the 24% tax bracket, federal I'm talking about now. Then the first thing you want to do is you want to max that out. You want to take every penny of that all the way up to the limit. And this is the way we usually do it. We start to do it now, particularly now when markets are high. There's nothing wrong with taking a profit. Yeah, you're going to pay some tax. Why not realize some of that now? Reposition that into more tax efficient income a year from now. So when you're retired, now you have that income, which is really in your tax bracket, more like a 5, 6, 7% rate of return. It's available today. We can show you how to do that. You just have to look at this a little differently. And if you're not hearing this from your people, well, then call us. It's easy. 866 protect. Now, the other thing you can do is this is Matt now, Matt can invest in a diversified fund. Let me explain. Let's say that he's in one company right now because he works there. And we want to go ahead and take a position out of that stock. Let's say it's a $7 million position. Let's say I want to take $1 million and I want to throw it at the S&P 500. So I go from one stock now to 500 stocks in the S&P 500. Diversify that risk. Sure, there'll be ups and downs, but not as bad potentially. Not as much exposure, maybe more dividend income coming off of that. And no capital gain tax on that exchange. You can diversify this out without paying any capital gain tax. There's, of course, restrictions. You want to read all the fine print, and we'll get that to you if you'd like to see it. But these are things you could do if you're sitting on stock positions right now. There are all minimums and so forth, so we should talk about that, of course. Happy to send you that paperwork before you do anything. But there are ways to not only diversify that concentrated stock position. The other thing you want to do right now, which is a gift, this is a gift, is you can create tax-free income right now when rates are at all-time highs still. And income taxes are at all-time lows right now still. Now's the time to be doing things. It's not going to stay this way forever. And then next year, the law is going to sunset. That's currently what's on the books. The tax law is going to change. It's going to get worse for all of you who could pay more taxes. Find out what that's going to look like. Start to plan now. I know you want more income. You want to save on your taxes. Then I'm going to recommend that you download right now my free 8-page guide where you can find out how to do some of the things I'm talking about right now. It's on my website. Go check it out, www.libertygroupllc.com, libertygroupllc.com. Download that guide. This is a great way to understand what I'm talking about right now. So when we sit down, you're going to ask better questions. Lexi just asked the question off the top of her mind. I got real estate. I'm a little scared. I'm wondering what's going on. But she's got other questions. I can tell. Just like you. Asking better questions gives you more confidence in your plan because you understand how the pieces fit together. And that reminds me, if you're like Matt, who's been listening to this show for years, you've probably been meaning to give us a call, but it hasn't been the highest priority because you're so busy, right? Like right now. So why are you going to wait another week? Once the election is over, according to the statistics I just read, markets could get volatile and erase some of your gains you've made. So give me a call now. Protect it. You've worked too hard. Stop playing around. 866-PROTECT. Right now, 866-776-8328. Dylan or Lucas are sitting back there. They want to talk to you right now. Give them a call. Remove the gray area. 866-PROTECT. Coming up next on Protect Your Assets, it's time for our popular They Say segment, where they say you have to pay capital gain tax on your stock every time. Is that always true? Find out the surprising answer. There's so much more to come. You're listening to Protect Your Assets with David Hollander. The Sandman, that's me. We'll be right back. Welcome back. I am David Hollander, also known as the Sandman. And you are listening to Protect Your Assets this morning. And that reminds me, if you have rental properties, the financial investing world can be complex, intimidating, so much so people get frozen, or right now when their accounts just keep going up, up, up. They don't know when to jump off. Don't make that happen for you. We believe the solution is education. And that's why today we're talking about some smart money moves you can make right now before it's too late and the market takes some of your profits you've been making this year. Now it's time for one of our fan favorite parts of the show, our They Say segment, where we debunk common myths, half-truths, and sometimes just bad advice that they say. All right, so here's one they say. They say that you always have to pay capital gain taxes on your stock winners every time. Well, is that true? No, it's not. Not necessarily. You don't pay taxes if you prepare correctly. What do I mean by that? Well, if you show $47,025 as a single filer or a joint filer, $94,050 of income, then you will pay 0 capital gain tax on the investments that you hold for more than 1 year. So if you can plan that, you might want to do that. And now would be a great time to do it. If you know what I'm talking about, call 866-PROTECT, and we will run through that with you. Next one I'd like to talk about is something about a 401k, because again, this came up. Bob didn't know anything about this. He had stock, company stock, and he was going to retire, and he didn't know about this. In his case, it was about $750,000 in his 401k of his company stock. And he only wanted to pay long-term capital gain on the stock instead of, as you know, with 401ks, as you take distributions, that's normally ordinary income. And you may say, what? I didn't know I could do that. Yeah, there's a way, instead of paying ordinary income tax on your stock in your 401k, you could pay long-term capital gain tax rate. This is called NUA. You may want to write this down. NUA. And what this does is it allows you to pay that lower long-term capital gain rate instead of the ordinary income. So first question we need to ask is, do you hold company stock in your 401k? Well, Bob did, and he was all set to call his custodian and ask them to roll the 401k to his IRA. Well, I said, Bob, hold on there. You got a tax break, buddy. That could save you a lot of money. It's called NUA. What? What is that? Bob said. NUA is the difference between the price you paid for the stock. That's called the cost basis. When you bought a piece of real estate, what did you pay for it? What's it worth today? That's what I'm talking about. Current fair market value, well, it's a lot more. So you can buy the company stock in your plan. In this case, Bob bought it for $20 a share. He used $2,000 to buy 100 shares. Today, that share is worth $35. It's up $15. And now it's worth $3,500. Add some zeros to it, but that's what I'm talking about. So his cost basis was $2,000. And his gain right now is $1,500. So you could either pay ordinary income tax on that, or you could pay long-term capital gain. Why should I care about NUA? Bob says, well, when you want to distribute that stock out of the 401k, ultimately into your bank account so you can use it to live on, you have a choice, Bob. You can roll that stock into an IRA. It's called an IRA rollover. Or you could do it to another 401k plan if you're going to change jobs and move somewhere else. Or you can distribute that stock into a taxable account and roll the remaining asset into an IRA or 401k. So it's like a split you're doing. And that later option could be more effective for you, Bob. When you transfer most types of assets from a 401k to a taxable account, you pay, that's right, income tax on the market value. But with company stock, you pay income tax only on the stock's cost basis, not on the amount it gained since you bought it. So if you're under age 59 and a half, Bob wasn't, you may also pay a 10% early withdrawal penalty. Remember, if you do a direct in-kind transfer to an IRA, the special NUA tax advantage is lost. So that's why you don't want to do a big chunk. So consider these factors as you decide whether to roll your assets into an IRA. The tax rate. The larger the difference between ordinary income tax rate, so let's say you're in the 37% bracket, and the long-term capital gains tax rate. Right now, the top federal is 20%. The greater the potential tax savings if you do the NUA. Time horizon. When are you going to distribute this? The longer you plan to keep your assets invested in an IRA or a taxable account before liquidating it, the greater the potential benefit of that tax-deferred growth. And therefore, the less you're going to benefit from NUA. Shorter time periods, maybe you don't want to do it. Let's look at Bob's situation to see how he and Jennifer could benefit from the NUA. After 40 years working in the defense industry, Bob, age 67, retired with $2 million in his 401k. He's married to Jennifer, and currently they are in the 24% federal bracket. About half of Bob's $2 million nest egg is in his company stock, worth about $1 million. Because he participated in the company's plan for many years and bought the stock at low price over time, the actual cost basis of the stock is only $50,000. While still working earlier this year, Bob, whose recent annual salary was $100,000, made a $40,000 after-tax contribution to the 401k to buy down the basis of the stock. Under his company's retirement plan rule, he's allowed to use that money to reduce the baseline value on which taxes are going to be based. So this allowed him taxable income to stay in 24% federal tax bracket. When Bob's RMD starts in a few years, remember at 73, he's projected to be in the 22% federal bracket. We can look at that in the future and see where he's going to be. So to take advantage of the NUA after he retires this year, he wanted a full distribution of the 401k account. That's what he was telling the people over the phone. So he's going to only pay tax on the ordinary income tax rate of all of that when he starts to take it out later. Down the road, when Bob passes away and he hasn't sold that company stock, his kids can receive a step up in basis on any gain. Since Bob decided to do the NUA, he transferred the remaining portion. Now, there's a rule out there called income in respect of decedent. I don't have time to go into that right now, but you need to be aware of that, so I'm just throwing it out there. Additionally, Bob's estate could be subject to an estate tax in the year he passes, and the kids may be subject to inheritance tax. Remember, that rule is going to be changing here. Right now it's $13.6 million, but in 2026 it's dropping down to a little bit over $6 million. And there's some rules around that right now you need to be aware of if you're thinking about that. So if Bob hadn't picked up the phone and asked a simple question, or at least explained to us the facts, he might never have known about NUA. How many of you are wondering if you have NUA right now? Well, if you're feeling like Bob did and you just didn't know, well, maybe now you just learned something. Bob just picked up the phone and called me. Easy. 866-PROTECT. Come into my office for a complimentary 1-hour meeting. If you're tired of the same old routine, meaning you have lots of questions, they don't get answered, you pick up the phone, 866-PROTECT. Give us a call, 866-PROTECT. Now it's time for a quick break, but when we come back, find out how you can avoid having to claim the RMD on your tax return. This is probably the most common mistake we see most people make in retirement, and that can push you in the next tax brackets. Coming up next, so stick around. Welcome back. I'm David Hollander, also known as the Sandman. And this morning you are listening to Protect Your Assets. And let's talk about that because your accounts are probably at all-time highs right now. And we have an election coming up. And historically, that means volatility. And if you're near retirement, you need to start thinking about protecting what you've earned and how you're going to turn that into income and hopefully make it the most tax-effective type of income that you can get. If you're turning 73, you got to take your RMD next week, buddy. And normally when you take money out of your IRA, it's a taxable event. It's ordinary income. And that income is going to now add to all of your Social Security, your rents, all that other adjusted gross income that's on your tax return. But do you need to take your RMD? No, I don't. Okay, well, if you don't need it, then why take it? Well, because I thought I had to. Not necessarily. What do you mean? Well, you could give it to a nonprofit that you love or you'd like to support while you're alive. And at the same time, pay less in taxes. I got your attention? I hope so. There's a way to keep the IRS happy by fulfilling your RMD duty while simultaneously avoiding the tax on your RMD distribution. Here's another acronym for you this morning. QCD. This is called a Qualified Charitable Deduction. These are amazing. Here's why. You can give up to $100,000 from your IRA when you're over 73 without, this is important, without counting that distribution as ordinary income on your tax return. Why would you care? Because a QCD is not taxable income in the first place, so it has no effect on your adjusted gross income on your tax return. Well, why should you care? Why you should care is because itemized deductions like charitable contributions, well, those phase out, first of all. They also affect your Roth eligibility. They also increase the net investment income, the NIT they call it, NII, on your Medicare. So you could pay more on Medicare, which I know you don't want to do. And don't forget Social Security. We all want Social Security, right? We all think it's going to go on forever, right? Shaking your head. No. Okay. Well, if you think that way, make sure they don't take more of it. And this is what I'm talking about. This also affects your Social Security. Huh? It does. So if you don't want to affect that, then do what I'm talking about. Look at this QCD. A QCD, giving it directly from your IRA, can allow you the benefit to not only get your charitable deduction, but not affect any of these other things I've been talking about. They're amazing. They're great. So it's very useful, particularly if you have a pension or Social Security or rental income. To fully count as a QCD, you got to satisfy three factors. First, must come from a traditional IRA. Cannot come from an employer-sponsored retirement account like a 401k. Second, the distribution must transfer directly to the charity, and it must be a qualified charity. Does not include a donor-advised fund. And third, you must receive a confirmation letter from the charity, and the letter must include the statement that no goods or services were received in exchange for the gift. So if you do this correctly, that distribution will not count, aka RMD, will not count as part of your adjusted gross income. Wow, that was good, wasn't it? Inhale through your nose, exhale through your mouth. Picture a day. Close your eyes. Picture a day when you're standing on a deck in Hawaii looking at the Pacific and trying to decide, should I go snorkeling or surfing? Picture a day when you can relax, travel, and do all the things you always wanted to do. And pick up that phone right now and call me, 866-PROTECT. We're sitting by right now ready to help you, 866-776-8328. Call me now. What are you waiting for? 866-PROTECT. Want to give a big thanks to the Protect Your Assets team for putting together a pretty good show today. We have executive producer, network manager, Kevin Renfer. And of course, all my producers back there doing the work you're not seeing. We got Dylan, we got Lucas, Raph, right? Raph's over there. Thanks, guys. Because without my team, I'm just another pretty voice in the radio. You've been listening to the Protect Your Assets show. I am David Hollander, the Sandman. Go out and make the rest of your life the best of your life.